So welcome back friends, I am here with another new topic, that is conservation of biodiversity in India, various acts and laws. So biodiversity refers to the variety of living species on earth, including plants, animals, bacteria and fungi. While earth's biodiversity is so rich that many species have yet to be discovered and many species are being threatened with extinction due to various human activities, putting the earth's magnificent biodiversity as at risk. This term biodiversity used to describe the enormous variety of life on earth. This can be used more specifically to refer to all the species in one region or ecosystem as a whole. This biodiversity refers to every living thing, including plants, bacteria, animals and humans. So till now scientists have estimated that there are in the world there are around 8.7 million species of plants and animals which are being existed now till now. However, out of 8.7 million species of plants and animals, only around 1.2 million species have been identified and described so far, and most of which are insects. So this means that millions of other organisms remain a complete mystery. So over generations, all of the species that are currently alive today have evolved unique traits that make them distinct from other species. So these differences are what scientists use to tell one species from another. Organisms have evolved to be so different from one another that can no longer reproduce with each other are considered as a different species. So all organisms that can reproduce with each other fall into one species. So now the scientists are interested in how much biodiversity there is on global scale, given that there is still so much biodiversity to discover. They also have studied many species exist in single ecosystems such as forest ecosystem, grassland, tundra or lake ecosystem. So now it's a high time for every one of us, being a responsible citizens of India, to think, to rethink and act on the conservation aspects of conservation of plants and animals, and we have to realize now that this conservation of plants and animals is the priority of the day. Hope you all will agree with me. So this biodiversity has been at a loss. There is a rapid loss in biodiversity seen by all these various reasons. First thing is pollution. It may be air pollution, it may be water pollution, it may be even due to noise and other human created pollutions, or the pollutions created by human activities. These play a major role in decrease of rich biodiversity in India or at the world level. Another aspect reason is there is a habitat loss. Due to this habitat loss, this biodiversity or rich diversity of plants and animals have been decreasing at an alarming rate. So this climate change is another factor which is responsible for the decline in rich diversity, and in this class I will be only concentrating about the plants biodiversity and conservation aspects and what are the rules and acts. Climate change is another factor which is responsible for decline in biodiversity, and this overexploitation of important medicinal plants which are particularly grown in wild, because the medicinal plants which are grown in wild, they will be having lot of secondary metabolites, and these secondary metabolites are mainly used in to produce to extract as a medicines in most of the industries. So this industry people, without knowing that these highly important medicinal plants have been overexploited. This overexploitation is mainly done by the industries, most of the industries in today's date. Another factor are invasive species. So this invasive species, particularly the invasive plant species, these are called weeds. So weeds are nothing but Those are the plants which grow in unwanted places, or which create the nuisance for the native flora, or which compete for water and nutrition with the other crop plants. When we are talking about the weeds in the crop field, so these weeds, they compete for nutrition and space along with the crop plants. So this invasive species is another new cause for the decline in biodiversity. So these are various causes: pollution, it may be habitat loss, it may be the role of the rapid spread of this invasive weed species, or it may be over exploitation, or it may be even climate change. All these factors are equally responsible for the loss in biodiversity of, it may be animal, or it may be the biodiversity of plants. So this United Nations Millennium Assessment found losses in biodiversity in the past 50 years was more rapid than ever before in human history. So in order to sustain Earth's life support services, from food security, resilience to natural disasters, and access to clean water and raw materials, improvements are needed to address the biodiversity losses and changes. So what are these biodiversity losses and changes? They may be extinctions, or they may be changes in the population sizes, it may be reduction in the distribution, it may be also species composition and other factor like genetic diversity. So this is a time to bring the improvements which are needed to address the loss in biodiversity and also the changes caused by all these factors. So again, by one of the report in the newspaper by BBC News, reported long back, of course, but that is true now also. It says that nature loss dwarfs bank crisis. So the global economy is losing more money from the disappearance of forests than through the current banking crisis, according to an UN commissioned studies. The TEEB also studied that, TEEB, the economics of ecosystems and biodiversity. So this study found that not meeting the CBD 2010 target would result in 7% losses in GDP by coming 30 years, that is by 2050. Example, annual cost of forest loss is between 2 to 5 trillion pound. This alone dwarfs the current financial crisis losses. Now it is a high time. Is this a real crisis? Is it so serious case that we need to now become alert and think over towards the conservation of this rich biodiversity of India? Yes, loss of biodiversity is definitely a crisis which is more important than the economic crisis. Yes, so this figure shows us various reasons, that is various natural resources and the benefits by the biodiversity conservation, and also which are the drivers for change of this biodiversity conservation. So as I already told in my previous slide, that these are several factors like land management, invasive species, pollution, and recreation or overuse of the environment, biodiversity. These are the causes or the drivers for change in the biodiversity conservation. Again, the benefits by the biodiversity conservation is directly concerned to the public health, that is by conserving the rich highly important medicinal plants, the pharmacy people or the drug industry are directly benefited by preparing medicines which directly help the public health, and it maintains the genetic diversity, it maintains the gene pool among various plant species and biodiversity conservation allows or provides a recreation, culture and aesthetics to human beings, and these are all the natural resources. Forest, grassland, pond, water ecosystem and various ecosystems are being conserved by this by doing biodiversity conservation. Again, there are certain species which are termed as umbrella species and flag species. So what is this flagship species? So umbrella species are the species whose conservation protects the other many species in the ecosystem. So by conserving this umbrella species, so we can also conserve many other species which depend upon this plant species or in the ecosystem as well. Whereas keystone species is a species that plays a unique and crucial role in the way ecosystem functions. If the population of this keystone species is reduced, then definitely the unique way of conservation functioning is hampered. And again, when with regard to the influence on food webs of this umbrella species, so this umbrella species do not pose a huge influence on food webs, whereas keystone species highly influence the food webs. So when regard to the geographic range, umbrella species are migratory, hence they can influence different habitats, and keystone species are not often migratory, they influence its environment only. With regard to the large habitat needs, umbrella species need large habitats, keystone species do not need large habitat needs. Example of this umbrella species are Amur tiger and grizzly bear, and example of this keystone species are American alligator, beavers, bees, elephants, hummingbirds, jaguars, wolves, etc. So this slide gives you an idea about what are those umbrella species and keystone species, and these are the terms usually referred when we will be talking about the biodiversity and their conservation. Yeah, how do you conserve the biodiversity? So conservation can be done by species based conservation and ecosystem based conservation. So example, the Santalum species and several Pterocarpus species. So these are now endemic species. So either you can start our conservation by conserving the species or by conserving the ecosystem, but both play equal weightage in conservation aspects. So this IUCN and Species Survival Commission, SSC and Otter Specialist Group, they have categorized this conservation on two categories, that is species based conservation and ecosystem based conservation. In species based conservation, as I already told, conserving the species of RAT species like Santalum species, Pterocarpus species. Ecosystem conservation, example wetland conservation, it can be done. So what are those economic aspects in order to conserve the biodiversity? So which this picture says that you have to decide now which choice is more beneficial, whether harvesting trees for trading and sale or conserving the forest to obtain the subsidies. So which one is better to you? The first one, that is harvesting trees for trading sale, or conservation of forest to obtain the subsidies. You have to decide, and I am quite sure that you will definitely opt for second option, that is conserving the forest to obtain the subsidies. Yes, I was talking about the umbrella species. So the conservation biologists use particular species as tools to conserve the communities and the ecosystems. This protecting the habitat of this umbrella species helps protect less charismatic animals that would not have generated public interest. So again, this flagfish species are large and charismatic species used as spearheads for biodiversity conservation. And for example, the World Wildlife Fund's panda bear, and there are some organizations which are moving beyond the single species approach to focus on whole landscapes. So when we are talking about the umbrella species, you can think about the big banyan tree, and when we are talking about the flagship species, these are large and charismatic species, particularly the tigers. So when we talk about the biodiversity in India there are about total 122 botanic gardens recorded in India, and approximate number of living plant accessions recorded in these 122 botanic gardens are approximately 2 lakhs number of taxa in these collections, and 15,000 to 20,000 more species are being collected in these botanic gardens. So estimated percentage of pre-CBD collections are more than 90%, and of course botanic gardens play a vital role in conservation of biodiversity. So these are the endemic species, plant species: Araucaria, Araucana and Adansonia species. So this is commonly called as baobab, and these baobabs are known as upside down trees, and these instantly recognizable with their swollen trunks and a crown of small branches. So 6 of 8 species of baobabs are found only in Madagascar, and they symbolize the island's unique diversity. The flowers of baobab are pollinated by local fruit bats and serve as an essential food source for the bats during the winters. And the Global Trees campaign is supporting Madagascaria Voyage to work with local communities to protect this important species. And another species, Araucaria araucana. So this is a national tree of Chile and a flagship species of several national parks in southern Chile, and monkey puzzle is known worldwide. The species is endangered due to threats such as fire and logging faces its wild populations, but its iconic status has increased conservation actions to protect it from extinction. It's also popular in horticultural collections, Araucaria araucana. Yes, RET species are often discussed while we were talking about the biodiversity. What is this R, E and T? Rare, endangered and threatened species. So example, this Kingiodendron pinnatum is heavily exploited, poorly documented or habitat deprived species. Other example of such species are Cyanometra travancoриca, Wateria indica and Hopia parviflora. These are also now have a better records, but Kingiodendron is heavily exploited but it is poorly documented or habitat deprived species. And again there are various medicinally important plant species which includes Aglaia malabarica. This is critically endangered species. Again Syzygium stocksii and Syzygium dhanisianae as well as are recorded for economical importance. And again Myristica malabarica is a vulnerable plant species, and Humboldtia valiana and Hopia ponga are also vulnerable species which are highly medicinal, but they have to be conserved now due to their over exploitation and due to their poor documentation. So here are the few examples of RET plant species: Hildegardia populifolia belonging to Sterculaceae family, Saraka asoka, Caesalpiniaceae, Uveria ucneata, Annonacea, Neetum, Ulla, Neetaceae, Dryptis, Asamica, Euphobiaceae, Ceropegia, Manarana, Asclepiadaceae, Cocinium fenestratum, Menispomaceae, Gloriosa superba, Liliaceae, and Sarcostemma, Viminal, Asclepiadaceae, and many more. So this Hildegardia populifolia is critically endangered, and Saraka ashoka, Uvaria acnata, and Neetum, Ulla are also critically endangered. Neetum ulla is a climber and it is endangered species. So critically endangered species, and endangered species like Ceropegia and Dryptis asamica and Ceropegia manarana, these are also endangered species, along with the Gloriosa superba and Sarcostemma viminal. These are few examples which have been listed under RET categories. So again, there is Botanical Institute in India, the Botanical Survey of India, BSI, it is in Kolkata. There is a project on endemic tree resources in southern Western Ghats, so which have including Kerala and Tamil Nadu. So this BSI has now documented about 250 RET species till now. Yes, these are the photographs of various RET species: Ocrinoclea micinus, Autonephyllum stipulaceum, Hopia ponga, Kingodendron pinnatum, etc. These are several IUCN categories given by the International Union for Conservation of Nature, starting from extinct, that is X, that this means that the population of that particular species is not available in wild, or it has been totally extinct and is only been seen available in the herbarium. Next category comes extinct in wild, so that is not, the population of that species is not present in wild, but it can be cultivated, it's seen in cultivated species. And there are categories like critically endangered, endangered, vulnerable, near threatened, least concern, data deficient, and not evaluated. So regarding this detailed description and meanings, will be, if possible, I will be coming with another new video lessons, but here you need to remember that these are several IUCN categories for the plant species given for the plant species. So the Environmental Protection Act or Environment Law. So this Environment Protection Act 1986 is an act of Parliament of India. So this act, in the way of what was made in the wake of Bhopal tragedy, the Government of India enacted the Environment Protection Act of 1986 under Article 253 of the Constitution. So and then passed in March 1986, and it came into force on 19th November 1986. So this Environment Protection Act has 26 sections and 4 chapters, and the purpose of the act is to implement the decisions of the United Nations Conference on Human Environment. They relate to the protection and improvement of human environment and the prevention of hazards to human beings or living creatures, plants, and including property. So the act is an umbrella legislation designed to provide a framework for central government coordination of the activities of various central and state authorities established under previous laws such as Water Act and the Air Act. So the areas on which restriction has been imposed in this act include Doon Valley in Uttarakhand, Aravalli regions in Alwar, Rajasthan, coastal zones, and ecologically sensitive zones. So there are three main categories of this environment law. The law number 1 says it deals about pollution control laws. So like water pollution, air pollution, noise pollution, hazardous substance and organism, and climate change related ozone depleting substances. Second environmental law that deals with the conservation related laws like Indian Forest Act, Forest Conservation Act, Joint Forest Management Circular, Wildlife Protection Act, Coastal Regulation Zone Notification, Aquaculture Authority Notification, Biosafety and Recombinant DNA Guidelines, and also Biological Diversity Act 2002. Environmental Law 3. So this deals with the operational notifications. So agencies working on this is Pollution Control Board and EIA, Environmental Impact Assessment and Eco Labeling are being done under this Environmental Law 3. There are several national laws or the acts like Water Act, which was passed in 1974, Wildlife Protection Act passed in 1972, Air Act 1981, Environment Protection Act 1986, and Biodiversity Act 2002. There is another act, Indian Forest Act, which was passed in 1927. So this was largely based on previous Indian Forest Acts implemented under the British. The most famous one was Indian Forest Act of 1878. So both the acts, 1878 Act and 1927 Act, sought one, consolidate and reserve the areas having forest cover or significant wildlife, to regulate movement and transit of forest produce, and duty leviable on timber and other forest produces. This Indian Forest Act, it also defines the procedure to be followed for declaring an area to be reserved forest, a protected forest, or a village forest. It also defines what is a forest offence and what are the acts prohibited inside a reserved forest and penalties leviable on violation of the provisions of the Act. The Conservation Act 1980. So this extends to the whole of India except the state of Jammu and Kashmir. It shall be deemed to have come into force on the 25th day of October 1980 with the view to checking for the deforestation. The Forest Ordinance 1980 had been promulgated on 25th of October 1980. The salient features of this act are restriction on de-reservation of forests or use of forest land for non-forest purposes, and it acts as a constitution for advisory committee, and it also gives a heavy penalty for contravention of provisions of for the act. And Environment Protection Act. So this Environment Protection Act 1986 is an act of the Parliament of India. In the wake of Bhopal tragedy, the Government of India enacted the Environment Protection Act of 1986 under the Article 253 of the Constitution. So this act was passed in March 86 and came into force on 19th November 1986. This act has 26 sections and 4 chapters, and the main purpose of the act is to implement the decisions of the United Nations Conference on Human Environment. So they relate to the protection and improvement of the human environment and the prevention of hazards to human beings or living creatures, plants, and also property. So this act is an umbrella legislation designed to provide a framework for central government coordination of the activities of various central and state authorities established under previous laws such as Air Act and Water Act. So the Constitution of India clearly states that it is a duty of state to protect and improve the environment, to safeguard the forests and wildlife of the country. The Department of Environment was established in 1980 in India. So this later in 1985 became the Ministry of Environment and Forest, and recently it has been changed as Ministry of Environment, Forest and climate change. The EPA, Environment Protection Act 1986, came into existence soon after the Bhopal gas tragedy, as I have already told, and this is considered as the umbrella legislation as it fills many gaps in the existing laws. So thereafter a large number of laws came into existence as the problems began arising. For example, there was a problem in handling and management of hazardous waste rules in 1989. In order to overcome the problems of handling and management of the hazardous waste rules, this Environment Protection Act was brought into existence. So what is the scheme of this act? The scheme of this Environment Protection Act has 26 sections and also divided into 4 chapters. These 4 chapters are relating to preliminary, general powers of the central government, prevention, control and abatement of environmental pollution, and miscellaneous. There is another policy, National Environment Policy 2006. So this this policy was approved by Union Cabinet on 18th of May 2006. National Environment Policy is a response to a national commitment to clean environment mandated to in the Constitution or Environment Protection Act 1986. So the main causal factor that is environmental degradation in enhancing poverty, particularly among the rural people, when such degradation impacts soil fertility, quality and quality of water, forests, wildlife and fisheries, also adversely affects the human beings. And the dominant theme of this policy, National Environment Policy, is that while conservation of natural resources is necessary to secure livelihoods of all, the most secure basis for conservation is to ensure that people dependent on particular resources obtain better livelihoods from the fact of conservation than from the degradation of the resources. So the theme of this policy is conservation of natural resources, which is important to secure the livelihoods of all the human beings, and the most secure basis of conservation is to ensure that people dependent on particular resources obtain better livelihoods from the fact of conservation than from the degradation of the resources. So the next important act is Biodiversity Act 2002. So we know that India is a home to the Western Ghats and the Northeast Himalayas. These are 2 important biodiversity hotspots after the world's 25. The country stands alongside 16 other mega diversity countries bestowed with 7 to 8% of the world species. So on June 5th, 1992, India signed a Convention on Biological Diversity at Rio de Janeiro, which provides a framework for the sustainable management and conservation of a country's natural resources. So after 10 years, the Biological Diversity Act was enacted in 2002 in order to conserve biodiversity, manage its sustainable use, and enable fair and equitable sharing benefits arising out of the use of biological resources with the local communities. So after an extensive and intensive consultation process involving with the stakeholders, the Government of India has brought a Biological Diversity Act 2002, and this was published in Gazette of India on February 5th, 2003. There are several chapters in Biological Diversity Act, and for chapter 10 deals with the constitution of biodiversity management committees for preservation of habitats, conservation of land races, folk varieties and cultivars domesticated, stocks, and also breeds of animals and microorganisms, and knowledge relating biological diversity. The chapter 10 deals with the biodiversity management committees for preservation of habitats, conservation of land races, conservation of folk varieties and cultivars and domesticated stocks, also preservation and conservation of breeds of animals and microorganisms, and also preservation and conservation of knowledge relating biological diversity. There comes into the picture CBD, the Convention on Biological Diversity. So this CBD was negotiated, and this was signed by various nations at UNCD Earth Summit at Rio de Janeiro in Brazil in June 1992, and the CBD came into force on December 29th, 1993, and after this India became a party to the convention in 1994, and at present about 175 parties are a member of this summit CBD, and the main objectives of the CBD are conservation of biological diversity, sustainable use of the components of diversity, fair and equitable sharing of benefits arising out of utilization of genetic resources. National Biodiversity Authority (NBA) is also one of the agency which is concerned about the conservation of biodiversity. National Biodiversity Authority. So all matters relating to requests for access by foreign individuals or by the institutions or by the companies, and all the matters relating to transfer of results of research to any foreigner will be dealt with by the National Biodiversity Authority. So the foreign individuals, any institutions or the companies which have to access the natural biodiversity, they have to make an applications to the NBA, and they have to take the permission from the NBA, then only they can proceed for the collection of plants or species. So all the matters which are relating to the transfer of results of research to any foreigner will be dealt with the NBA. Then comes State Biodiversity Boards, SBB. So this State Biodiversity Board deals with all the matters which are relating to access by Indians for commercial purposes, will be under the purview of the State Biodiversity Boards, and the Indian industry will be required to provide a prior intimation to the concerned SBB about the use of the biological resources. So for example, a pharmaceutical industry, it is going for the extraction from highly medicinal plant. So before going to the collection of this highly important medicinal plants, it has to take a permission from the State Biodiversity Board. The State Biodiversity Board will have the power to restrict any such activity which violates the objectives of conservation, sustainable use and equitable sharing of the benefits. So there is another important committees, that is Biodiversity Management Committees, BMCs. So these BMCs are the institutions of local state government which will be required to set up biodiversity management committees in the respective areas for conservation, sustainable use, documentation of biodiversity and chronicling of knowledge relating to the biodiversity. But again, NBA and SBB, National Biodiversity Authority and State Biodiversity Board, should consult BMCs on matters related to use of biological resources and associate knowledge within their jurisdiction. So another important aspect in this biodiversity conservation is the biopiracy. So what is this biopiracy? So in 19th century, globalization due to industrial revolution made significant impact in the intra and international exchange of knowledge and goods. Even though there were many constructive features, globalization propelled few detrimental events like monopolization the economy by a few countries and biopiracy. So in simple words, the term biopiracy refers to the unethical and illegal exploitation of one's knowledge or resource without prior consent or benefit sharing agreement by a third party through intellectual property right claims. The phenomenon is present in almost all commercial fields, especially in pharmaceutical, food and cosmetic industries. So in a general modus operandi, the information gained while will be skillfully manipulated to a patent, through which the information will become the intellectual property of the pirate. And superficially there may not be any similarity with the prior knowledge, but either the resource or the product will be monopolized by the biopirate, thus preventing the actual inventor from utilizing it. And it was noted that benefits were always accounted to the developed countries, even though 90% of the information was from the developing or underdeveloped nations. So heavy exploitation accompanied with the inevitable destruction of biodiversity forces the organizations like UN to enforce strict means to protect the universe. And at present there are 170 countries that agreed to fair sharing of information and protect and to the sustainable utilization of the natural resources. So this biopiracy is a misappropriation of traditional knowledge for the purpose of seeking exclusive patent ownership over that knowledge. This is a process through which the rights to the genetic resources and the knowledge are erased and assumed by those who have exploited indigenous knowledge and biodiversity. So, to check biopiracy, the proposed legislation provides that access to biological resources and associate knowledge is a subject to terms and conditions. So further, it would be required to obtain the approval of the NBA before seeking an IPR, intellectual property right, based on biological material and associated knowledge obtained from the India. Yes, why the companies choose biopiracy instead of bioprospecting? It may be due to the competition in the pharmaceutical or agricultural area, and these big companies do not have time to collect samples legally, so they engage in the biopiracy in order to first to patent the biological material. Yes, then what are these patents? Patents gives an individual or a firm the right to control, privilege to a limited legal monopoly and to control, make, use and sell. In order to control, make, use and sell its invention and or discovery. Patents gives an individual or a firm or institution the right and the privilege to a limited legal monopoly and control to make, use and sell its invention and or its discovery. And also this gives an individual the right to exclude others from making, using or selling the invention to the market, and To be patentable, an invention must be a novel one. What is the purpose of getting this patent? Yes, in order to enjoy the exclusive rights over the invention, one has to get the patent, and the patent is to ensure commercial returns to the inventor for the time and money spent in the generating a new product. There are patent acts which was passed in 1917. It says that mandatorily requires disclosure of resources and geographical origin of biological material used in the invention. It says that it is a mandatory to disclose the resources and geographical origin of biological materials which are used in invention, and also if failure to disclose or wrongful disclosure, patent may be revoked on these grounds, and it is required that the applicant should furnish a declaration with regard to the having obtained necessary permission of the competent authority to use the biological material from India. And this patent act also enables local communities holding traditional knowledge of use of such biological material to benefit from providing such access to the such knowledge. The Indian Patent Act, in India, the grant of patents is governed by Patent Act 1970 and Rules 1972. The patents granted under the Act are operative in the whole of India, and this patent law was passed in 1856, and the patent of designs was passed in 1911, and further the Patents Act 1970 and Rules 1972 came into existence, and the Patent Amendment Act came into force in 2005. So another important act in the biodiversity conservation of biodiversity is Wildlife Act that was passed in 1972. The rapid decline of wild animals and birds in India has been a cause of grave concern. So some wild animals and birds have already become extinct in country, and others are in danger of being so. So areas which were once teeming with wildlife have become devoid of it, and even in sanctuaries and national parks, the protection afforded to wildlife needed to be improved. The Wildlife Birds and Animals Protection Act 1912 had become completely outmoded. The existing state laws were not only outdated but provided punishments which were not commensurate with the offence and the financial benefits which accrued from poaching and trade in wildlife practice. So, an urgent need for introducing and comprehensive legislation which would provide a protection of wild animals and birds was felt by the government. But the central government had no power to make a law in this regards, as the subject matter related to the entry 20 of the state list in the 7th schedule. So, different state legislatures also found that state laws were not adequate to deal with the matter effectively. The legislatures of the state of Andhra Pradesh, Bihar, Gujarat, Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Manipur, Punjab, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh and West Bengal passed subject. Accordingly, the Wildlife Bill was introduced in the Parliament. So, the key environment challenges that a country faces related to the nexus of environmental degradation with the poverty in its many dimensions and economic growth. And these challenges are intrinsically connected with the state environmental resources such as land, water, air and the flora and fauna. And the proximate drivers of environmental degradation are population growth, inappropriate technology and consumption choices, and poverty, leading to changes in relations between people and ecosystems, and development activities such as intensive agriculture, polluting industry and unplanned urbanizations. So the status of wildlife in a region is an accurate index of the state ecological resources and thus of the natural resource base of human well-being, and this is because of interdependent nature of ecological entities in which wildlife is a vital link. So what are the objectives of this Wildlife Act? So objectives like are as below. First is prohibition on hunting of specified wild animals, birds and plants. There is a prohibition on specified hunting of specified animals, birds and plants. Second objective is setting up and management of national parks and wildlife sanctuaries. And the third objective is control of trade and commerce in wildlife and wildlife products. Wildlife Protection Act refers to a sweeping package of legislation enacted in 1972 by the Government of India. As already told, this act provides protection of wild animals, birds and plants and all matters connected with therewith or ancillary or incidental thereto. It extends to the whole of India except state of Jammu Kashmir, which has its own Wildlife Act. Salient features of this Wildlife Protection Act 1972 are: it has four schedules, schedule 1, 2, 3 and 4. So all these four schedules list different protected species, the killing or trade of which are prohibited, and schedule 5 lists vermin which may be killed, and schedule 6 lists protected plants, and a schedule 1 offence can earn a repeat offender 6 years in prison and fine of rupees 20,000. All the rules of the protected area. So this Wildlife Protection Act has several schedules. Schedule number 1 concerns with the offence that can earn a repeat offender 6 years. It will be put in prison and a fine of 25,000 will be should be paid as a penalty by the offender. And schedule number 2, 3, 4 they are concerned about the lists of different protected species and the killing or trade of which are prohibited, and schedule 6 lists vermin which may be killed, and schedule 7 lists protected plants. So as per the schedule 6, protection of specified plants, so it says that no person shall willfully pick, uproot, damage, destroy, acquire or collect any specified plant from any forest land and any specified area by central government, and no person shall possess, sell, offer for sale or transfer by way to gift or otherwise or transport any specified plant, whether alive or dead or part or a derivative thereof. And member of scheduled tribe residing in that district are not prevented if it is for their personal use, because we know that tribal people mainly depend on the plants for their survival. And this protection of specified plants mentions that member of scheduled tribe residing in that particular district and are not prevented if it is for the personal use. Scheduled tribe don't have any restriction if they use the plants in that particular districts if they are using for the personal use. Yes, here comes another important convention on conservation of biodiversity, that is CITES, CITES. It is the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora. It is an important international agreement between governments. So it aims is to ensure that international trade in specimens of wild animals and plants does not threaten their survival. So widespread information nowadays about the endangered status of many prominent species such as tigers and elephants might make the need for such a convention seem obvious. But at the time when the ideas of CITES were first formed in 1960s, the international discussion of the regulation of wildlife trade for conservation purposes was something relatively new. So with hindsight, the need for CITES is clear. So annually, international wildlife trade is estimated to be worth billions of dollars and to include hundreds of millions of plants and animal species. The trade is diverse, ranging from live animals and plants to a vast array of wildlife products derived from them, including food products, exotic leather, goods, wooden musical instruments, timber, tourist curios, and other medicines. And the levels of exploitation of some animal and plant species are high, and the trade in them, together with the other factors such as habitat loss, is capable of heavily depleting the populations and even bringing some species close to extinction. So because the trade in wild animals and plants crosses borders between the two countries, the effort to regulate it requires international cooperation to safeguard certain species for overexploitation. CITES was conceived in the spirit of such cooperation. Today it accords varying degrees of protection to more than 37 species of animals and plants, whether they are traded as live specimens, fur coats, or dried herbs. So CITES, we can get more information under the website www.cites.org. CITES is a convention on international trade in endangered species of wild fauna and flora. This was signed on March 3rd, 1973, and it was brought into force on 1st July 1975. So it has been in operation for almost more than 45 years. The purpose of CITES is to ensure that wild fauna and flora in the international trade are not exploited unsustainably. So you can, in this picture we can see the caviar cervuga, caviar cervuga. So all these are materials. What is this caviar? What is this? What is there in these boxes? So caviar is a roe or eggs from the sturgeon family of fish. So this contains the eggs from the fish. So this eggs are considered as delicacy, and these are often eaten raw as an appetizer, but with some caviar fetching, they fetch the high price. So for this reason, these sturgeon family of the fishes, they are being over exploited or being traded for money. So historically, the most prized type of caviar came from the Caspian and Black Seas, but due to overfishing, caviar is now produced around the world. So again, Saussurea costus. The roots of this Saussurea costus, this is been used in traditional Chinese formulations, and the natural distribution of this Saussurea costus, belonging to the family Asteraceae, is largely restricted to Jammu and Kashmir, China. And China was totally dependent upon the India, mainly on cultivated sources from Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand for its supplies. Again, the convention CITES establishes an international legal framework together with common procedural mechanisms for the strictest control of international commercial trade in species threatened with extinction and for an effective regulation of international trade in others. So this CITES roughly had protected 5,000 species of animals and 28,000 species of plants against overexploitation through international trade. This table given below shows the approximate number of species which are included in the CITES appendices as of present. So let us concentrate about the plants. In appendix 1 to CITES has protected 298 species and 4 subspecies, and appendix 2 CITES has protected 28,074 species plus 3 subspecies and 6 populations, and appendix 3 it has protected 45 species plus 1 subspecies including with 2 populations. There is another treaty in order to conserve the biodiversity, that is International Treaty on Plant and Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture. So this International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture came into force on 29th June 2004. So with the multilateral systems which is facilitated for the crop access, and it has sharing for financial benefits, and also it has a aim of Farmers Act or rights. There is another network which monitors the wildlife trade, that is TRAFFIC, TRAFFIC, Wildlife Trade Monitoring Network. So the TRAFFIC is a strategic alliance of World Wildlife Fund and Federation and IUCN. This TRAFFIC, Trade Records Analysis of flora and fauna in commerce. So this TRAFFIC is the Wildlife Trade Monitoring Network, and also is a joint program of WWF and IUCN, the International Union for Conservation of Nature. It works to ensure that trade in wild plants and animals is not a threat to the conservation of nature, and wildlife trade refers to the commercial use by people of the wild animal and plant resources. While most of this trade is legal, a significant portion of it is not. So TRAFFIC has gained its greatest reputation from supporting CITES, the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species. Since TRAFFIC was created in 1976, it has helped the evolution of this international wildlife trade treaty. Coming to the vision of TRAFFIC is trade in wild plants and animals is managed at sustainable levels without damaging the integrity of ecological systems and in such a manner that it makes a significant contribution to human needs, and also it supports the local and national economies along with helping to motivate commitments to conservation of wild species and their habitats. And it also has reports the illegal trades too. Example, there were about 9,000 baby tortoises seized at Chennai airport, and 4 black bucks were killed in Madhya Pradesh, and rhinos continue to be killed in Kaziranga, and 2 poachers were arrested, and 10 kg of wild boar meat seized in Odisha. So all these were done by this TRAFFIC. Yeah, these are several countries which are a part of this TRAFFIC, that is in Europe, traffic in India in South Asia, East Asia, Southeast Asia, and East Southern Africa, and again this internet office is in this thing, and there is also traffic in South America and North America, Europe. So this is traffic international, and these all blue colors are regional traffic offices. Yeah friends, that is the end of the presentation regarding the conservation of biodiversity, various acts and laws. That too I have concentrated only regarding the acts and laws of conserving the biodiversity in India, starting from CPT, Water Act, Air Pollution Act, Environmental Act, Wildlife Protection Act, CITES, Traffic, CBT, and many more. I hope it was a very informative lesson to all the teachers and the students of life sciences. It may be helpful even for the high school and pre-university students, and of course UG and PG students will definitely benefited by this lecture. See you all friends in the next video lesson. Till then, take care. Bye.